It happened during my mother's 60th birthday party. The lights dimmed, the music lowered, and someone wheeled in a projector like we were about to watch an old family movie night. Everyone gathered around the screen with wine glasses and paper plates balanced on their laps. "This will make her cry," my cousin whispered, grinning. It was supposed to be sweet. A slideshow of memories. Childhood pictures, vacations, grainy snapshots of birthdays with crooked cakes and messy candles. The kind of sentimental montage families put together when they want to prove they've always been close, even if the truth is a lot uglier. I sat in the second row next to my sister. She smelled like perfume and champagne. Mom was in the front, her eyes already wet, one hand clutching her husband's knee. The first few slides were harmless. Mom holding me as a newborn. My sister in a tutu. A Christmas tree with way too much tinsel. Everyone laughed at the hairstyles, the clothes, the blurry disposable camera quality. And then it happened. A photo appeared on the screen that made my stomach twist so hard I almost spilled my drink. It was me, maybe 5 years old, sitting on a park bench. A man's arm draped casually around my shoulders. He wasn't my dad. I knew that instantly, in the way you know your own reflection. The shape of the hand, the angle of his jaw, the way he leaned into me like I belonged to him. The room didn't react right away. People kept smiling, polite, waiting for the next slide. But I froze. My sister froze. And then I noticed my mother's face. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her lips parted slightly. Her eyes darted to the screen, then to me, then back again. Like she'd seen a ghost slip into the room. I whispered, "Who is that?" But my voice was too low. Only my sister heard me. And her reaction told me everything. She grabbed my wrist under the table and hissed, "Don't." "Don't what? Don't ask? Don't notice? Don't remember?" Because here's the thing, I didn't remember. I had no memory of that day, of that man. And yet my skin prickled like some buried part of me recognized him. The photo lingered a second too long, like the computer had glitched. Then the slideshow skipped to the next picture. A harmless beach scene, but the damage was already done. The laughter had quieted. The air shifted. A few relatives were whispering. My stepdad leaned forward slightly, his face tight, like he was trying to solve a math problem without the final number. And me? I just sat there, staring at my own 5-year-old face on the screen, with a man's hand on my shoulder that shouldn't have been there. That was the moment I knew. My family had been hiding something from me. And that photograph wasn't an accident. Someone had put it in the slideshow on purpose. The slideshow kept rolling, but no one was watching anymore. Not really. I felt the weight of that photo pressing against my chest like it had burned itself into me. My sister's hand was still on my wrist, her nails digging in just enough to hurt. "Don't what?" I whispered again. She let go, shaking her head like she could physically shake the words away. She reached for her champagne glass instead. Eyes fixed on the screen, pretending. Always pretending. But I wasn't pretending. I couldn't. Because here's the thing, I've lived my whole life with gaps. Little blackouts in my childhood, memories I could never quite pin down. Everyone told me it was normal. Kids forget things. But the way my stomach twisted when I saw that man's face, it didn't feel like forgetting. It felt like remembering too much all at once. I glanced at my mother. She was leaning forward in her chair, stiff, both hands now wrapped around her glass of wine. My stepdad, the man I had called Dad since I was 8, leaned toward her and muttered something under his breath. Her shoulders stiffened even more. The slideshow ended with a triumphant "Happy 60th, Mom!" in sparkly cursive letters. Everyone clapped. Too loudly. Too fast. Like clapping was the only thing holding the room together. Mom turned in her seat and forced a smile. "That was beautiful," she said, her voice high and brittle. "Just beautiful." But her eyes never once looked at me. After the applause, the crowd scattered toward the buffet table, toward the bar, anywhere but near me. I just sat there, my drink untouched, staring at the blank screen. That's when my cousin Leah slid into the empty seat beside me. She had the kind of smirk people wear when they know something you don't. "You weren't supposed to see that one," she said softly. My throat went dry. "What do you mean?" She tilted her head, like she was deciding whether to tell me. "Let's just say your mom was very specific about which photos should be in the slideshow. That one wasn't on the list." The air seemed to thicken around me. So why was it there? Leah shrugged, almost playful. Ask yourself who made the slideshow. Who wanted you to see it? My pulse hammered. I thought back, it was my aunt. Mom's sister. She'd been the one organizing the memory project. I looked over at her now. She was by the dessert table, laughing too loudly, glancing over her shoulder at me between bites of cake. That was the moment I realized. Someone in my family wanted the truth out, and they just lit the fuse in the middle of a birthday party. The laughter in the room was loud, but it felt fake, like background noise in a TV sitcom. Everyone kept talking, but their eyes slid past me. They knew. Or at least they suspected. I couldn't sit anymore. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else, trembling, restless. I stood, gripping the back of my chair for balance. Who was that man? My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise like glass breaking. The chatter stopped. Forks paused halfway to mouths. My stepdad shifted uncomfortably, his jaw tightening. My mother finally turned toward me, her face pale, lips pressed so thin they almost disappeared. What are you talking about? She asked carefully. I forced the words out. The man in the photo. With me. On the bench. A ripple of unease went through the room. My aunt, still near the dessert table, suddenly looked very interested in her plate of cheesecake. My cousin Leah leaned back, eyes gleaming like she was watching a play she'd already seen before. Mom shook her head. Sweetheart, it was years ago. You were little. Just a family friend. Family friend? I snapped. What was his name? Her silence was an answer. That was when my stepdad stood up. Enough, he said firmly. This is not the time or place. But I wasn't backing down. Why not? Because everyone already knows except me? A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. My sister grabbed my arm, trying to pull me down into my seat. Please, she whispered. Not here. I yanked my arm free. If not here, then when? You've all been lying to me my entire life. The silence was unbearable. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Finally, my aunt spoke. Her voice was cool, sharp. She deserves to know, Marianne. Marianne. My mother. Mom's eyes snapped toward her sister, fury flashing. Don't you dare. But it was too late. The aunt set down her plate, folded her arms, and looked directly at me. That man wasn't a family friend. He was your mother's secret. And he's the reason your childhood doesn't look the way you think it does. Gasps spread around the room like sparks in dry grass. My mother's face collapsed into something I'd never seen before. Not anger, not sadness, but fear. And in that moment I realized I wasn't just chasing a missing memory. I was about to unravel the entire foundation of who I thought I was. The room felt split in half. People holding their breath, and people pretending they hadn't heard. My aunt's words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. My mother shot her a look that could have killed. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I do, my aunt replied, calm, deliberate. I was there. I remember him. I stepped forward. My voice cracked but didn't waver. Who was he? My mother finally stood, clutching the back of her chair like she needed it to stay upright. He was no one. A mistake. Someone I knew before your father. My stepdad stiffened at that, but I didn't care. Before him? Mom, I was 5 in that photo. Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then whispered. You don't understand. My aunt's voice cut through. Tell her the truth, Marianne. Or I will. The air was so thick I could barely breathe. My mother's eyes darted from me to her sister, desperate, cornered. Finally, she said it. He was your father. The words punched the breath out of me. I staggered back, hitting the table behind me. Glasses rattled. Someone gasped. My stepdad's face drained of color, as if the floor had just opened beneath him. I heard myself whisper. No. But my aunt nodded grimly. Yes. His name was Daniel. He was around. More than around. Everyone knew, Marianne. Everyone knew you were living a double life. You just didn't want your daughter to know. My mother's hand shook. She looked older than 60 in that moment. It was complicated, she said weakly. He wasn't safe. I did what I had to do. Safe? My laugh was hollow, sharp. You lied to me for decades and all you can say is it was complicated? She reached toward me, her hand trembling. I was protecting you. I stepped back, her fingers grazing the air where my arm had been. Protecting me. The words rattled in my head like something poisonous. Protecting me from what? From him? From the truth? From myself? My aunt spoke again, colder this time. Protecting her? You erased her father from her life. You made her think she was crazy every time she felt something missing. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Where is he now? I asked. No one answered. Not my mother. Not my aunt. Not a single relative in that suffocating room. And that silence told me more than words ever could. No answer. Just silence heavy enough to crush me. My heart was pounding so hard I thought the entire room could hear it. I scanned their faces one by one. My mother's watery eyes, my stepdad's clenched jaw, my sister's pale face, my aunt's icy defiance. And all the others. Cousins, uncles, family, friends. Every single one of them avoiding my gaze like if they didn't look, they wouldn't have to admit they'd been part of this lie. I slammed my hand against the table. Plates rattled, silverware clinked. Where is he? That broke something. My mother flinched, but it was my sister who whispered first. Her voice was so soft I almost missed it. He's gone. I turned on her. Gone where? Her eyes filled with tears. She looked at Mom before answering. He died. Years ago. It felt like ice water poured down my back. You knew. She nodded, ashamed. I was 12. I overheard. They told me never to tell you. Said you were too young, that it would only hurt you. I could barely process the words. Dead. He was dead. And they'd buried the truth with him, leaving me to grow up with questions I didn't even know I was asking. My aunt leaned forward. He wasn't a good man, but he wasn't all bad either. He loved you. In his way. My mother's head snapped toward her. Don't you dare romanticize him. You'd rather erase him completely? My aunt shot back. Pretend he never existed? Pretend she doesn't have half his blood in her veins? The tension cracked like thunder. Voices overlapped. My mother shouting, my aunt spitting words like knives. Relatives murmuring nervously. My stepdad tried to calm them, but he was invisible now. A background prop in someone else's tragedy. And me? I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The walls of that rented banquet hall felt like they were folding in. When the noise reached a fever pitch, I screamed. Stop! The entire room froze. My throat burned. My hands were shaking. You all knew, I said. You all sat here for decades and let me live a lie. Birthdays, holidays, family dinners. You smiled in my face while hiding the biggest truth of my life. No one spoke. Just silence again, but different this time. Shameful. I don't care if he was good or bad, I said, my voice trembling. I don't care if he's dead. He was mine. And you took him from me. My mother's face crumpled, her hands covering her mouth like she could stuff the truth back in. But it was too late. The truth was out now, raw and bleeding, and there was no way to shove it back into the dark. I walked out. Not storming, not slamming the door. Just walked. My heels clicking on the cheap linoleum floor, echoing louder than the applause had earlier. Nobody followed me at first. I think they were too stunned. Outside, the night air hit me like a slap. Cold, sharp, real. I hadn't realized how suffocating that banquet hall had been until I could finally breathe again. I stood in the parking lot, staring at the glow of the streetlights bouncing off wet asphalt. My chest was heaving, my fists clenched. The tears that refused to fall inside finally broke free. He was dead. Whoever he was, whatever he was gone. And the people who should have told me, should have given me answers, had stolen them forever. I heard the door creak behind me. Soft footsteps. My sister's voice. Please don't hate me. I turned. She stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, trembling like she was the one who'd been betrayed. You knew, I said flatly. She nodded. I didn't want to. I begged Mom to tell you. She said it would ruin everything. Everything. My laugh was bitter. What's everything? Her marriage? Her reputation? Or my life? She flinched. I thought maybe she was right. You were happy. I didn't want to break you. Newsflash, I spat. I'm already broken. Her eyes filled again. I'm sorry. For a moment I almost softened. Almost. Because she looked like me. The same blood, the same history, the same ache behind her eyes. She was just another victim of our mother's secrets, wasn't she? But then I remembered she'd had the truth all along. And she let me drown in the dark anyway. I stepped back. Sorry doesn't give me a father. Sorry doesn't give me the truth. Sorry doesn't give me my childhood back. Her lips trembled, but she didn't argue. She just stood there silently sobbing while I turned my back on her. That's when I noticed my aunt. She was leaning against her car, smoking, watching. She flicked the cigarette to the ground when our eyes met. I warned her, she said quietly. I told her secrets rot a family from the inside out. Now you see. I hated that she was right. Why show me tonight? I asked bitterly. Because, she said, stepping closer, the dead can't hurt you anymore. Only the lies can. And it was time they stopped winning. Her words landed like stones in my chest. For the first time I realized this wasn't just about one photograph. It was about years of silence. Generations of secrets. And I wasn't sure I wanted to know how deep it went. I didn't go back inside. I couldn't. The thought of sitting in that room again with their eyes on me, pitying, judging, avoiding, made me sick. So I left. Got in my car, drove aimlessly for half an hour, ended up parked outside my own apartment building. But I didn't go in. I just sat in the dark, gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white. Sleep didn't come that night. Every time I closed my eyes, the photo flashed in my head. That man's arm around my shoulders. The familiarity I couldn't explain. My mother's voice saying, "He was your father." 3 a.m. I finally went inside. Checked my phone. 22 missed calls. 6 voicemails. Half from my mother, half from my sister. I didn't listen. I couldn't. But there was one text that made me freeze. It was from my aunt. "If you want answers, come tomorrow. Noon. My house. Bring nothing. Trust no one." I stared at it until the letters blurred. The next day I drove to her place. A small, cluttered house on the edge of town. The kind of place that smelled of mothballs and stale coffee. She didn't waste time. The second I walked in, she shoved an envelope into my hands. "This is all I have left," she said. Inside were letters. Faded, yellowing, folded so many times the paper was tearing at the creases. They were addressed to me. My breath caught. "What is this?" "Your father wrote them," she said simply. "He gave them to me when things ended. I was supposed to pass them on when you were old enough. Your mother made sure I never did." My hand shook as I pulled one out. The handwriting was messy, uneven. "Sweetheart," it began. "I don't know if your mom will ever let you read this. But if you do, I need you to know something. Whatever anyone says about me, whatever you hear, none of it changes this. I loved you. I still do." The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. Another letter. Another line. "I wanted to be there. She wouldn't let me. I made mistakes, but leaving you wasn't one I chose." I covered my mouth, choking on a sob. My aunt sat across from me, her face unreadable. "He wasn't perfect," she said. "Far from it. But he wanted you. That much is true." I pressed the letters to my chest like they might fill the hollow inside me. For the first time I wasn't just angry. I was grieving. Grieving for a man I'd never really known. And a life I'd never been allowed to have. I drove home with the letters on the passenger seat like fragile evidence. My hands gripped the steering wheel too tight, my eyes raw from crying. Every stoplight felt endless. Every face I passed on the street looked like someone who knew my secret. Back in my apartment, I spread the letters across the kitchen table. 5 in total. Each one stained with time, with his handwriting growing shakier toward the last. They painted a picture I didn't recognize. A man who wanted to be a father, who fought to see me, who was shut out again and again. "Your mom doesn't think I'm good for you," one letter read. "Maybe she's right. But I need you to know I would have tried. I would have shown up every day if I could." I couldn't stop the tears anymore. They came hard, relentless as I whispered out loud. "Why didn't you fight harder?" The question wasn't just for him. It was for all of them. By evening my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages stacked up. My sister, please call me. Mom's not well. My mother, I can explain. Just talk to me. My stepdad, she's falling apart. You need to come. For years they controlled the narrative. They decided what I was allowed to know, who I was allowed to love, even how I remembered my own childhood. And now, when their walls were crumbling, they expected me to fix it. I didn't reply. Instead, I scanned the letters, every page, every word, and saved them to my laptop. Then I photographed them all just in case. The next morning, I woke up to a storm. My cousin Leah had posted something cryptic on Facebook. Sometimes the truth destroys before it heals. Family members were commenting, speculating. The rumor mill had begun. By noon, my phone rang again. This time it was my aunt. "They know I gave you the letters," she said. "Your mother is furious. She's saying I forged them, that I'm poisoning you against her." My chest tightened. "Are they real?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes. Every word. I'd swear it on my life." I believed her. I didn't want to, but I did. That evening there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, my mother stood there. No makeup, eyes red, hands trembling. Behind her, my stepdad hovered, grim and silent. She whispered, "We need to talk." And for the first time in my life, I had the power to say no. I didn't step aside. I stayed in the doorway, blocking her. My mother's eyes searched mine, desperate, brittle. "Please," she whispered. "Just let me explain." "Explain what?" My voice was ice. "That you lied every single day of my life? That you erased him like he never existed?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Her hand froze in midair, trembling. "You don't understand," she said. "He was dangerous. He drank, he fought, he had problems. I couldn't let him raise you. You would have hated me if I did." I laughed bitterly. "And now I hate you because you didn't." Her face crumpled, but I kept going. The anger was hot, uncontrollable. "You had a choice. You could have told me the truth and let me decide how to feel. Instead, you decided for me. You stole that from me." Behind her, my stepdad finally spoke. His voice was flat, resigned. "She did what she thought was best." I snapped my gaze to him. "Best for who? For me? Or for you?" He flinched but didn't answer. I took a breath, steadying myself. "You want to explain? Fine. Explain these." I went to the table, grabbed the stack of letters, and held them up. Her eyes widened in shock, then fury. "She gave them to you." "Yes," I said. "And you tried to bury them. Just like you buried him. Just like you buried me." She shook her head violently. "They don't matter. They're lies. He always lied. You can't believe. They're my lies to judge." I exploded. "They're my truths to weigh, my memories to mourn, my father to hate or love or grieve. Not yours. You don't get to control this anymore." The silence that followed was so sharp it hurt. My mother's shoulders sagged, as if something inside her finally broke. She whispered, "If you shut me out, I have nothing left." Her words landed heavy, but I didn't flinch. For once, the guilt didn't pierce me. I looked her straight in the eye. "Then maybe you should have thought of that before you stole everything from me." Her sob cracked the air. She staggered back, clutching my stepdad's arm for balance. He guided her toward the elevator without another word. I closed the door before she could beg again. And when the lock clicked, I collapsed against it, shaking, the letters pressed tight against my chest. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a child begging for scraps of truth. I felt like the one holding the knife that finally cut the cord. I didn't sleep that night. The letters lay scattered across my bed, like ghosts breathing in the dark. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face from the photograph, his arm around my shoulders, his words bleeding through faded ink. "I loved you. I still do." By morning, something inside me felt different. Not lighter, not healed, just clear. Like the fog that had been choking me my entire life had finally lifted. And now I could see the wreckage underneath. My phone was full of messages. Cousins demanding to know if it was true. Aunts asking what really happened. My sister begging me to pick up, to fix this. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop. One by one, I uploaded the scans of the letters. I didn't write a caption, didn't add context. Just posted them privately to a folder, with a simple note to myself, "My truth. No one else gets to take it again." Then I sat in silence, listening to the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock. It wasn't peace exactly, but it wasn't chaos either. It was something new. At noon, my aunt called. "How are you holding up?" I laughed softly. I don't know. I feel like a building after a fire. Still standing but scorched. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Scorched doesn't mean destroyed. Sometimes it means purified." I didn't answer. But the words lodged deep. That evening my sister showed up at my door. I didn't open it. She knocked, pleaded through the wood. "Please don't shut me out. I'm not Mom. I didn't want this either." Her voice cracked and for a moment I almost caved. But then I remembered 12-year-old her, holding the truth, and still watching me stumble through the dark for decades. I pressed my forehead to the door and whispered, so quietly she probably didn't hear. "You chose her silence over my truth. And now I choose me." Eventually her footsteps faded down the hall. When the apartment was quiet again, I sat on the floor, the letters spread out in front of me. I touched each one, not like proof, not like evidence, but like relics. Pieces of a father I would never know. And in that stillness I made myself a promise. No more lies. No more secrets. No more begging for love that came with conditions. Family isn't blood. Family isn't silence. Family is protection. Safety. Love. And if they couldn't give me that, then they weren't family at all. I gathered the letters back into their envelope, sealed it, and placed it in the drawer of my nightstand. Not hidden. Not buried. Just waiting. A reminder that my story was mine now, not theirs. For the first time I let the tears fall without trying to stop them. They weren't just grief anymore. They were freedom. And as I sat there in the quiet, I realized something I never thought I'd feel. I wasn't lost. I was finally found.